Their Excellencies, the Right Honourable Dane Cindy Kero, Governor General of New Zealand, and Dr. Richard Davis.
Ki tēnā o tātou. E honore he kororia he maungaro mo ki runga ki te mata o te whenua e whakaro whai ki ngā tangata katoa. Aro haina ngā teina me ngā tuakana e noho nei i rungi te whakaro o tahi pai marire.
Please be seated. E ngā mana, e ngā reo, e ngā iwi o ngā hau e whā, tēnei aku mihi mahana ki o koutou. Nau mai, hara mai, ki te whare kāwana, tianara ki whanganui e tara. Kia ora mai tātou katoa. Distinguished guests, it is my pleasure to welcome you all to Government House for today's investiture ceremony. I'd like to specifically acknowledge Kerry Gregory, Chief Executive Fire and Emergency New Zealand, and Russell Wood, National Commander, Fire and Emergency New Zealand, Mr. Joe Harawira, our kaumātua, and Ms. Puhi Wahine Tibble, our kuia. Hosting investiture ceremonies is one of the most important duties that I perform on behalf of His Majesty, the King of New Zealand. I'm delighted to bring together such an extraordinary group of New Zealanders. You have each brought pride and a greater sense of well-being to Aotearoa New Zealand through your outstanding achievements and your service to our communities. On behalf of all New Zealanders, I extend my sincerest thanks to you for your contributions. After each recipient is honoured, I invite you to join with me in congratulating them. Ms. Catriona McLeod will now summon the recipients and read their citations.
Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of an Officer of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Mr. Jim Schuster of Rotorua for services to Māori arts and heritage preservation. Jim Schuster, te arawa, Ngāti Pikiao, Ngāti Henekura, Tūhorangi, Ngāti Wahiao, Ngāti Tarawhai, Tūwharetoa, Ngāti Umutahi, is an expert in Māori conservation techniques and a specialist carver, ko whaiwhai painter and tukutuku weaver. He taught at schools throughout the Bay of Plenty. He is a Māori-built heritage advisor, traditional arts for Heritage New Zealand. He's helped restore numerous marae and wharanui. He is kaitiaki of all three overseas whare whakairo or carved houses. He contributed to the agreed return of the Hinemihi Meeting House in England to New Zealand. He led restoration of the Rauru Meeting House in Ver Vorkelkunde Museum in Hamburg. he helped create tukutuku panels for the United Nations General Assembly building in New York. Mr. Schuster is part of numerous land and ahu whenua trusts. Mr. Jim Schuster, please come forward. Mrs. Sue Sutherland of Christchurch for services to library and information services. Sue Sutherland was libraries manager at Christchurch City Council, appointing the first digital services manager in a New Zealand public library and introducing a network of hundreds of public access computers in Christchurch libraries. She held several senior leadership roles at the National Library of New Zealand. She led the implementation of the government's digital content strategy, which shaped the approach to digital content management in New Zealand. She was responsible for establishing the Aotearoa People's Network, Kaharoa, which provided free internet access in public libraries. Ko Tui, a consortium of public libraries enabling access to affordable library software, and Digital NZ, an online metadata platform. She has authored several publications and contributed to national frameworks developing strategic direction for libraries. Mrs. Sutherland provides consultancy services to libraries and cultural organisations. Mrs. Sue Sutherland, please come forward. Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of a member of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Ms. Chanel Barrett of Taupo for services to triathlon. Chanel Barrett won her first national triathlon title aged 14 and competed on the World Triathlon Circuit until an illness caused her to retire. She then trained as an international triathlon technical official, officiating at Olympic, Commonwealth and Paralympic Games. She participated in the US State Department Global Sports Mentoring Program. She was New Zealand head mentor and spokesperson for the Weet-Bix Kiwi Kids Mentoring Program and managed the Weet-Bix Kids Triathlon in Taupo. She was technical manager of Triathlon New Zealand and served on the International Triathlon Union Technical Committee. Ms. Barrett is deputy chair of Oceania Triathlon Union and an elite selector for Triathlon New Zealand. Ms. Chanel Barrett, please come forward. Ms. Alexis Lugo of Rotorua for services to ethnic communities. Alexis Lugo was a founding member and board secretary of the Rotorua Pacific Islands Development Trust. She was a founding member and president of the Rotorua Ethnic Council, now Rotorua Multicultural Council. She's held several roles in the New Zealand Federation of Multicultural Councils, including national president. She was an event manager for Global Fest, a festival celebrating Rotorua's cultural diversity. She was chair of the Rotorua Community Organisation Grant Scheme and trustee of the Christmas Parade Charitable Trust. Ms. Lugo is a trustee of the Rotorua Civic Arts Trust, chairperson of the Rotorua Pacific Islands Development Charitable Trust, and a member of the Rotorua Fijian Association. Ms. Alexis Lugo, please come forward. Ms. Christine Richardson of Wellington for services to Special Olympics and the community. Christine Richardson is fundraiser, treasurer and 10-pin bowling coordinator with Special Olympics Te Whanganui Atara, Wellington. She was chairperson of the Special Olympics Lower North Island Regional Council and a member of the Special Olympics New Zealand Board. She was Special Olympics Wellington's team manager for 2 national summer games. She coordinated the Wellington team's attendance at the 2022 Special Olympics National Summer Games in Hamilton. She's contributed to community activities in areas including postnatal support, children's safety and Amnesty International, and was a member of the Wellington City Council's Accessibility Advisory Committee. Ms. Richardson was a founding member, treasurer and archivist of EPOCH, End Physical Punishment of Children, New Zealand. Ms. Christine Richardson, please come forward. Mr. Dean Whiting of Wellington for services to Māori arts. Dean Whiting, Te Whānau a Apanui, is the Kaihotu Māori Director Māori Heritage for Heritage New Zealand and has provided leadership to the Māori Built Heritage Programme, which focuses on the revitalisation of traditional arts and cultural practice and offers conservation and traditional arts workshops. He served on the board of Creative New Zealand and was project conservator at the Museum of New Zealand Te Papa Tongarewa. Through his earlier consultancy, he worked with marae and institutions around New Zealand to conserve taonga and offered government and iwi business art and design services. Mr. Whiting has several publications, including co-publishing Fire Protection of New Zealand's traditional Māori buildings. Mr. Dean Whiting, please come forward. Your Excellency, to receive the insignia of an honorary member of the New Zealand Order of Merit, Mr. Fumiyuki Saijo of Otaru-shi, Japan, for services to New Zealand-Japan relations. Fumiyuki Saijo has been a driving force between the sister city relationship between Dunedin and Otaru, Japan. Saijo-san has visited New Zealand more than 20 times, fostering connections between Japan and New Zealand across trade, education, sport, cultural and youth exchanges. He is president of the Otaru New Zealand Society and the Hokkaido Federation of New Zealand Societies. He's been instrumental in the gifting of significant cultural gifts to Dunedin. He is a member of the Japan-New Zealand Business Council. As president of the Alumni Society of Otaru Choryo High School, Saijo-san initiated a sponsorship program for Otaru students to study at Otago University Language Centre. Mr. Fumiyuki Saijo, please come forward. Your Excellency, to receive the Queen's Service Medal, Mr. James Hazlitt of Naseby for services to Fire and Emergency New Zealand and the community. James Hazlitt is Chief Fire Officer of Ranfurly Volunteer Fire Brigade. He was President of the Central Otago Fire Brigades Sub-Association. He held executive roles with the Otago Southland Provincial Fire Brigades Association. He convenes the Otago Southland Challenge Panel. He's volunteered with the Road Crash Rescue Organisation and been involved with UFBA challenges as a participant coach and judge. He volunteers for St John Ambulance in Ranfurly. He chaired the St John's School Ranfurly Board of Trustees. He was president of the Ranfurly Curling Club, Naseby Curling Council and New Zealand Curling Association. Mr. James Hazlitt, please come forward. Mrs. Diane Martin of Katikati for services to the community. Diane Martin trained as an ambulance officer paramedic and was a secretary and superintendent with the Order of St. John. She's held various roles with the Katikati Rugby and Sports Club, including president. She was a committee member of the Katikati Athletics Club. She was a Plunket Committee member, serving as Plunket President in Kihi and Katikati. She's been involved in Katikati Archives, the town's Heritage Museum, and neighbourhood support. She volunteers at Katikati Police Station. Mrs. Martin held various positions with the A&P Society and served as president of the Katikati RSA and Citizens Club. Mrs. Diane Martin, please come forward. Mr. Jeff Mail of Kaikohe for services to Fire and Emergency New Zealand and the community. Jeff Mail has been a volunteer with Kaikohe Volunteer Fire Brigade since 1972, currently as operational support. He's organised brigade events and celebrations. He helped run the first fire camps in Kaikohe and the Auckland Association Conference. He's served on the Northland Fire Brigade Sub-Association. He has been Kaikohe delegate for the Auckland Provincial Fire Brigades Association and the United Fire Brigades Association. He's organised inter-brigade bowls and pool competitions. Mr. Mail has been involved with the Kaikohe Swimming Club, Golf Club, police blue light discos for youth, and the coaching of hockey teams. Mr. Jeff Mail, please come forward. Mr. Neil Robbie of Foxton Beach for services to Fire and Emergency New Zealand and the community. Neil Robbie has served with the Foxton Beach Volunteer Fire Brigade since 1975, including time as Deputy Chief Fire Officer, and remains active as a senior firefighter. He's created and maintained trails in Ferry Reserve in Foxton Beach for cyclists and walkers, and accessible trails for people with mobility issues or strollers. Mr. Robbie offered his building and engineering expertise as part of a group who created a windmill sculpture in the Ferry Reserve as a tribute to Dutch-New Zealand artist Leon van den Eykel and in connection to the Foxton Dutch Community and Museum. Mr. Neil Robbie, please come forward. Mr. Stephen Shaw of Cromwell for services to Fire and Emergency New Zealand and hockey. Stephen Shaw, Ngāi Tahu, was part of the Gore Volunteer Fire Brigade before transferring to the Cromwell Volunteer Fire Brigade, where he served as Chief Fire Officer and then joined the Operational Support Unit. He developed inclusive brigades and ensured they responded as effective units. He leads the Fire and Emergency Central Otago Lakes Peer Support Team, which conducts defusing sessions following traumatic events and provides one-on-one support to firefighters experiencing psychological issues and trauma. Mr. Shaw held leadership roles in the Central Otago Hockey Association and was instrumental as board chairperson in the formation of Southern Region Hockey Incorporated. Mr. Stephen Shaw, please come forward. Your Excellency, the investiture has concluded.
New Zealand's honours system is our highest public affirmation of outstanding individual achievement. It reinforces those things that make our society better: service, manaakitanga, and the pursuit of excellence. To our recipients, it has been a privilege to hear your stories. You have each used your talents and abilities to improve the lives of fellow New Zealanders. In doing so, you embody the sentiments expressed by Nelson Mandela when he said, "What counts in life is not the mere fact that we have lived. It is what difference we have made to the lives of others that will determine the significance of the lives we lead." I urge recipients to wear your insignia with pride at every opportunity, knowing that you inspire others by your example. On behalf of the King of New Zealand and all New Zealanders, I congratulate you on your achievements, and I thank you once again for your service to our country. Kia ora, e huhi mai nei I tēnei rā. Now you will see on the back of your program the words to the national anthem in te reo and in English. And I now invite you to join me in singing the national anthem.